Everybody, hi, 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 hi. Welcome back to another year. Happy New Year. Happy 2026. Uh, I'm happy to be back. I had a really, really, really long year. So, welcome to Lifted Voices with Fifi. Woo! I hope everyone is healthy. I hope everyone is in good spirit. And I know I went AWOL from November until today. A lot has been going on. I'm just a busy woman than what I expected to be. So, anyway, that's life. That is life, but we're back. Let's see what God has in store for us in this year. And today I won my NBA game 2026 last week Sunday. I went to an NBA game in London. It was Memphis versus Orlando, which of course Ja Morant won. Uh, yeah, I was happy for him because that was his first game back, and I was so glad that he came back in London. So that was a good comeback. Yeah, and let me not hold this. I hope everybody can hear me. I know it's been a while. Yeah, but we're gonna start again with today's episode. I think it's just oh, because you know what happened? Beginning of this year and towards end of last year, I sort of slowed down on internet. And then the first 10 days of the month, I completely took off my main WhatsApp. I kept some social, like my emails and my other number I was using in Rwanda open because obviously I needed it to communicate, but I was completely off social media for good 10 days because I just wanted to spend a lot of time reflecting on what God really has done for me in the year 2026, 25. And it's a lot, and I had a lot of reflecting to do, and I was in Rwanda, so I just needed me time, and it was a good time to actually do that. So yeah, that's one of the main reason why I truly was just out of it, really. Yeah, but but I am back and I'm glad I am. The last 2 weeks I would have done it, but I also think that I was spending a lot of time just looking back at life, just reflecting on life, and I wanted to come back when I don't feel pressured to do so. And that's why I took time. But I think today is just gonna be an episode where I'm just giving my gratitude really to God, just thanking God for the year 2025, and to tell the truth, to thank God for this year 2026. I think a lot of people have gone into the new years with health issues, financial issues, emotional issues, a lot of things that we have in our lives. But I feel like God it feels like it still feels surreal. It still feels like a dream because it feels like everything just is connecting and God is just doing so much more than I could really ask. And I didn't want to complain and I didn't want to talk about anything else. It's just a personal reflection. So today it's just gonna be me. My apologies anyway. But today's episode is deeply personal for me, and it is not about the achievements, it's not about the platforms or the visibility, it's just remembrance of what God really truly has done for me. And I know it took me a long pause, for me to come back, and it took me time also 20 something days in this year just to reflect on just recognizing the hand of God in a way, you know, in ways that I did not always see in the moments. But now I have clarity because I've taken that time out to just look back and reflect on a year that I had, on a massive year that I had, and what God truly has done for me. So this episode is just truly my testimony of gratitude, not because of the journey that the journey has been easy. It hasn't been. It was really tough last year, but because God has been constantly faithful. He's been so consistent with his faithfulness in my life, and that is why I specifically want to talk about today, just looking back with gratitude. And there was a time that I prayed quietly and I wasn't sure of if my voice mattered beyond the walls of my own room or of whatever I was really. It took me a while to have my own place. But, there was a time where I was just unsure of the voice of God, and I prayed for direction, and I feel like I prayed for direction, for purpose. I was very specific in this season on what I wanted from the Lord, and I felt like that came back with clarity. I asked for direction, but I was very specific in my asking. I asked for a purpose, but I also knew what I wanted God to journey with me in this season. So, and for God, and I also wanted God to just make sense of the path that I was walking in. Because sometimes I feel like we can be in a journey, we could be doing something, and we're just not sure anymore. We get to a point where we're not sure of whether we're going or we're coming. So I feel like I was in that season where I asked for direction, I asked for purpose, and just for God to give me clarity of the journey that I was on. And when I look back now, I realize that God has not only been listening, but He was preparing. Because I feel like there's a lot of hardship that we go through sometimes, and we feel like, what's the point of life? And I reached that season at one point, but I feel like God was just preparing for the season that I'm in so that I can take it with grace. I can journey with so much trust and faith in Him. And it felt like in that season of preparation, some doors opened suddenly because there are things that was just what I was just so wowed by the ways God worked. And some other doors took really, really long time to open. So, and to tell the truth, I think the best thing that came out of it was some of them, they came with fear, some with some stretching, and some with joy. It was a good season. Last year was one of my best years. It's only because these twists and turns taught me so much. I grew as a person, as a woman in faith, and especially when I felt like I was restarting my entire life from everything that I was used to. I had to reset, I had to restart, and with good health. There's nothing more I could say more about this season more than the Lord has blessed me with good health in this season, and I'm so grateful and beyond. And yeah, so that was one of the most things that I was so grateful in this season because I felt like I went on a long time where I was just struggling with my health. And that's one of the most thing I'm grateful for in this season. But I feel like all of these things that the season just came as a big package, none of them were accidental, you know. And I look back, I can start back with the beginning of the year. I I started 2025. I was in Amsterdam. Yeah. So I went to Netherlands with a friend because I felt like I needed a reset. I needed to start my new year completely different from what I'm used to, and having to return home. We had a nice grape season. We started with grapes on our new year, which was quite interesting. I know it's weird. Um, but I felt like from that day, there was something that took place. I think I've already shared about my scripture that I used throughout my 2025, sorry. And I felt like when I offered in that moment, when I began my new year, and with my prayers and with everything that I asked the Lord for, it would take hours Yeah, I think it does this sometimes. I'm gonna dip because my camera sort of does that. Okay. Oh, it's back. Yeah, so my camera has its own mind, but I'm back on my good camera, so that's okay. So I have no clue what I was saying. So I was talking about how my year last year started, and I felt like I went to the Lord with like clear intentions of how I wanted things to be. And this comes with when we have a relationship with the Lord, you need to be so intentional with what you want with Him because sometimes we ask for a rock and we get a mountain. And then we wonder why we're struggling with this mountain. But that's exactly what we asked for. We didn't ask in what size and what shape it comes in. So I was so intentional with my purpose and direction that I needed in that season. And the Lord was so, like I said, some things happened so suddenly and something took long time. And in that season, I learned that I'm gonna declare worship. I went in my worship. Like I always say, for me, the best worship is the one in the private, the one I do in my room by myself because it's crazy. I can do 3, 4, 5 hours worship by myself, and it just makes me feel so fresh and new. And I got a habit of just praying at night. I used to do my 1 a.m. prayers. I used to do 3 a.m. So I used to do midnight to 1 a.m., then 3 a.m. to 2, 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., and then 6 to 7. And then when I'm on my way to school, at that time I was studying on my way to school, I would do my prayers. In between my classes, I would do my prayers. And in the evening, I do my prayers. So I was so intentional of what I wanted, and I knew that I have to fight this if I wanted to be in this season and if I wanted things to change in that terming season. So those are things that I was very intentional with. And it took me 4 months to see the first picture of what I really prayed for. Because, like, I think a lot of you know my background. I'm hoping you do. Okay, so and I'm talking about how both from ministry perspective and life education perspective. So I'll just give a quick recap where I was last year. So I'm a nurse, registered nurse, been for many years. So I was just deciding what to do in transition of returning from Rwanda, what else to do with my life. I haven't worked, I haven't had a full-time job since 2017 because I've been in full-time ministry. So I think there was a lot of thinking to do. I don't think I had the energy to go back to the NHS and do full-time work when I'm so used to a complete different life. And it was a lot. And I was so intentional to the Lord that I wanted something different. I wanted something that I can still be at service. I wanted something that can give me a chance to do what I've been doing in the last few years and be of a service, not just to those around me or in my communities and those people that I've told the Lord that I wanted to help. And I also wanted to start my organization where I can help young people to stay in school. I was very intentional about what I wanted really in terms of keep this whole lifted going, supporting young girls, talking to young people to remain in school and education, especially from vulnerable communities. And I knew if I go back into the NHS, I'm not going to really have the time to do all those things. So I was very intentional about what I wanted in my prayer. And this is why I felt like it was such a struggle in that season of prayers. And I also have my postgrad in public health and health promotion, which you may not know. It's okay. Yeah, so when I returned from Rwanda, I decided to study diplomacy in international relations. So I am a graduation. I've got a master's in politics. Weird, right? From health to politics. Yeah, but I wanted to, because when I was in Rwanda, I've learned so much that this diplomacy spaces, this NGO spaces can be actually a good thing towards the vision that I had, and especially having started lifted, where I wanted to talk to young girls, encourage young girls, even young boys, because I've seen a lot of young boys that needed to be encouraged to have a purpose. And even when I did my dissertation, I wrote on reintegration of young people into the society. How can we help young people? So that was my final research. It was just on how can we help young people to be part of the community. And that's what I researched on. So I wanted to use my passion as well as my education in my ministry, what I've learned, what God wanted me to do, and use it as my life and still help me to earn and find a way of living, which I thought, you know what, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I had to trust in something because I had a vision, and this was my vision. Like I said, I was very intentional on the first of the year of 2025 of what I wanted from the Lord, and I was very intentional. I'm not giving up, and it came with a lot of difficulties because obviously, like my surroundings, my family, they're like, Phyllis, you can't go on without work. You can't go on with just sitting around waiting for something that you never know, it might or might not happen. But I knew where I was standing in my prayer, there was something shifting. And like I said earlier, nothing is accidental. Everything, God makes everything with a purpose. And I had to hope and believe in that purpose that God knows what He's doing. And I should have faith in what He's about to do, what in the path that He has led me all these years. So that was that. So I I struggled. I struggled, but I remained faithful to my prayers all the way to April. April, I've told this before, so I'm not even really gonna go into it. I end up standing in Vienna at an international conference. That was nothing that I have mapped out years ago. I never thought I would start standing on global stages and give my talks. And I think things just skipped. I was telling God I wanted this, and He was saying, you need this. And that is one thing that we shouldn't doubt. When we go to God, we should go with our dreams bigger than ever. And this is something that I also, when I talk to young people, I always encourage them, dream bigger. And the sad part is a lot of young people, they'll tell us, but I don't know what to do. I don't have means of doing this. I don't. But do you have faith? Do you believe in what that your dream can come true? Do you know who your God is? Do you have faith in God? That is so important, and that is a seed that I want to use in my career, in my faith, in my ministry to give to young people that there's so much more that God can give us when we give Him our big dreams because He's the maker of all these dreams. He knew us. Psalm 139, 139, He tells us God knew us completely because He's the one who put our seniors together. He put us shape by shape, piece by piece. So He knows what we want, what we need before we even say a word. So why do we doubt? So this is something that I made it a mission of mine to just tell young people that you're worth it. God sees you, God knows you, and God wants more out of you, and you have to want the same. And that's what I wanted. And the same me, I have to point out to myself as well, me of little faith, because I also I knew where I wanted to go. I just didn't dream big enough. I didn't allow God to push me that far. But God showed me that I am allowed to dream bigger than what I am. And this happened actually on the 1st of April in 2025. I found myself standing at an international conference in Vienna, something that I never visioned of. Yet I was there representing youth, speaking at in a global conversation, sitting in a room. I once just I have read about these UN conferences. This international conferences, these NGOs, and I never thought that that's for me. Who am I? So these are the things that we never really think of because we think they're made for other people. These opportunities are not for us. And Vienna reminded me that God can take a voice from a humble beginnings and place it at an international tables. And it was not about prestige, but it was about purpose. It was about obedience meeting opportunity. And that is something that I want to use to drive, especially young people. I want to use this to make sure that every young person, especially in the place with my project with Lifted, I want to make sure that every young person, if I could, the whole world get the same opportunity as everybody, because God called us to have access to everything that is within this world. Because when He made this world, He says, all of this is for you and for you to rule over. So we should grab and take what God has given us, and we should do it by faith. That's when a lot of us get lost because we forget the aspect of faith when we're struggling or when things are going well. So we need to learn to put the two together. God and our vision should walk alongside. And from this time onwards, when after the conference, I went into my internship season that shaped it sort of shaped me in ways that I did not expect because I got to write my first article. Never thought. I love writing. I have books and books and books of writing. I write music, I write stories. Well, I used to have a blog, I closed it. And I just write randomly, and I never thought that it could be something that could be published for so many people to see. There again, me of ye of little faith, that I could not think that if I want something, God can give. And God is keep on giving the things that I'm not even looking into. It's like, open your eyes, see more, look further, look beyond what you're seeing right now, because my sight can go beyond that. And it's the same thing that I tell everyone that I meet. When I talk to people, I'm telling them, God has so much for you. You are more than what you are. You are, and you can do whatever you put your mind to. Why? Because we just need to invite the Lord into it. And it sort of refined my professionalism, and it sort of strengthened my discipline as well. And then it reminded me the preparation that it matters. We also need to prepare because sometimes I feel like I do try the Lord a lot because I do keep him. Yeah, I put him in trouble sometimes. I do random things that I don't think. Sometimes I just do things without thinking. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it leads me in trouble. But it always comes from a good heart. So sometimes we pray for elevation without realizing that God first answers by giving formation. That season, this season that I just passed in the last year, it sort of taught me to steward responsibility with integrity and humility, which is something that I've been learning over the years, and I just didn't know how to channel it properly. I didn't know how to use it into my day-to-day life, because I feel like sometimes when you live in a fast life and or you're so overwhelmed with a lot of things, you forget how to journey in humility and integrity. And you need to ask the Lord to journey with that. And I feel like that's what I've been learning last year, how to put the two together and how to journey with that. And fast forward from that, I had my internship. My internship went all the way from April to finishing 30th of July. And just before July, I remember during the Pentecostal season, I enjoyed Pentecostal season because I was so specific. Like after seeing what the Lord has done into for me in my previous month, I started, like pushing my limits and asking for more things. But one thing, like I said from the beginning, I was so sure of what I wanted, but I didn't think that it's something that can happen overnight. By having seen all those things, I started learning that I can ask of the Lord. He's wants us to ask like a daughter to a father. Why can I not just ask? This is what I want. I go to my daddy and ask what I want. And then I remember, when I was young, after my parents passed, and my grandmother told me one thing that I devoted you. I surrendered you to Child Jesus. And your life, everything about your health and your life, all the issues you face, if you have any problem, don't talk to me. Go and talk to Child Jesus because I have offered your life completely into his hands. So I remembered, I'm not alone. The scripture says he's a father to the fatherless. And my grandmother had offered me to Child Jesus. So I went to Jesus. I talked to him like my everyday friend. I remember in the season of Pentecost, in those 50 days, I prayed, I battled, and I started doing more night prayers, spending time alone in prayers. I sort of went into isolation. I think my family were a bit shocked, like, what's going on with this one? So at that time, I was staying at my sister's house. My sister works, the kids are at school. So I remember just being alone at home and I'll pray so loud. I'll pray, I'll worship. You know, that's when I started understanding the movie War Room, because I've watched that movie and I saw how that woman prayed, and I was like, God, give me the same intensity when I pray. I want to, but when you're going through in the season and you're praying like that, you understand why, especially when it comes from deep within. So that was something that I learned to do that in that season. And in that season and time, another opportunity came. There was an opportunity to write a um a proposal about about I even forgot. So it was a program by UN FAO, Food and Agriculture, in the University of Remlin in Beijing. So they were doing a collaboration youth on youth. So it's a collaboration of youth, uh, talking about, so you write a paper on how to end poverty, around food issues. And I wrote one on Zimbabwe, and I wrote about the issues we're facing, especially with the drought, because Zimbabwe is well known for farming. And I thought, okay, the alternate I could really think of is, how can we do something in a dry land? Is there anything that we could use as an alternate instead of keep on doing the same thing that doesn't work, especially in drought? So we start thinking, and then I collaborated with my cousin. God is so good. She's studied environment and she's in agriculture. She has so much experience in that. She did amazing research on that. So we did that, and out of thousands and thousands of applications, we were the top 15 to go to China. So I ended up going to Beijing, which has always been a dream to go to Beijing, and everything that was on my list. There were places that I always wanted to go to Beijing to see the terracottas, the what is it called? The Great Wall, a lot of these things that I always wanted to do. And I paid none of it. It was all fully paid. That's when I realized, I can go to Jesus and ask for anything, and He actually can do it. And I think that sort of motivated me to go and speak more with Jesus, asking for more and more and more. I know I'm a very needy child, and He's used to it and He knows it. But when we run to Him, run to the Father, He's so merciful, He's so full of love, and He'll do anything that we tell Him. And I felt like traveling to China and appearing I was on TV in China, appearing on the Chinese TV. It's still something that I'm still in all of, actually. It still shocks me, it still takes me back a bit. But I did not go to seek for recognition or anything, yet God placed me in spaces where my work, my voice, and my story cross borders. I never imagined. I even won a most valuable individual uh, award while I was there. And it was just a reminder that God's reach is global, it's beyond us, and His plan is not limited to what we think, you know, dream bigger. You know, China has always been a plan for me so far because I didn't think I could be able to do so. So God is not limited to geography. But what felt impossible is it became a testimony. It became my life story. It became something that I didn't think that it could transform my life. It could change everything around me. Because while I was in China, this is an application I don't even remember I made long time back, if not a year, 2 years back. While I was in China, I received an email from the Commonwealth being asked for an interview for a job. To tell the truth, I googled my emails, I went through everything. I couldn't even remember when I applied for it, but I know I've applied thousands of jobs. I know at the Commonwealth I've sent so many applications, but I wasn't sure which one it was. While I was there, this is where God reaches anywhere, in any time, anywhere. And that's all I can say. Because while I was there, I secured my job at the Commonwealth, which was more than just a career step. It was an answered prayer because I was now desperate because I was in what happened just before me of ye of little faith. Hear it. Just before I went to China, I decided I had enough. It's July. I haven't got a permanent job. Like I looked, I've done everything. My studies is coming to an end. Like I think it's time I go back to the NHS. I went to, then I applied for a job. I was working in North Wales. It's very, 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 very far in a place called Bangor. I was there. I did 4 shifts. And then I came back home. I went to China. As soon as I got to China, I got a job. You see, year of little faith. I should have just waited those 4 days. I would have come back with a new job. But anyway, God does things different. Our ways is not his ways, and all we need to do is have a little bit more faith. A little bit more faith is all we need. And it was an sort of it sort of affirmed that my experience, my advocacy, and my persistence is sort of mattered. That's the moment I realized all these things that I've been doing, it matters. And it showed me that God does not, he just does not waste season, even the ones where our progression feels a bit slow. And to tell the truth, I think I felt more than slow. I felt invisible most of the time. And I feel like the Lord reminded me this through the scriptures from Book of Proverbs 3, 3, 5 to 6, because that's what carried me through in that season. That trust in the Lord with all your heart. We've heard this so many times. I think in Jesus Youth we have a song written for this by Jumi. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Be strong in faith. Something, something, some. Tune into Christ and you set the world on fire. That's a good song. You should listen to it by Jesus Youth. I think that was one of the theme songs for the conferences. Yeah, but trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him and He'll make your path straight. And God was aligning, purpose with position. And just moving forward, fast forwarding, I know there's been half an hour of me mumbling. When I was in the midst of transition, now confused what to do next with my life and everything, I find my own place and everything. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so I think God works differently and weirdly, and when you lean into Him, things changes. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with my camera, but it keeps on. I think I need to reset it because I've not been using it for a while, so I don't know. Anyway, So that was that. End up finding myself in my own place with this whole new life. It was a lot of adjusting to do, but I thank God for the family that I have, for the support system that I have. And I felt like some prayers that was just coming through like peace, because I felt like I was starting to transit into my season of peace where I just felt like everything was floating, everything was going the way God wanted it to go. And which is something that was very important for me because I felt like my mind was so recollected and I was back in a place where I could rethink of my ministry forward. And not because I don't know, like I wanted to move forward with my ministry, but with clear mind of what is my new ministry, what is my way forward with Christ, and in my how do I use my personal life outside in the world? How do I use my work to minister? And God is so faithful. My projects at work that I do, it involves my passion in helping young women. All my projects I'm doing right now is about helping young women, and empowering young people and everything. So it feels like God truly listens because I needed a job where I can still be at service and still be able to make a living, but at the same time, being the person that I wanted to be forward and being involved in communities, helping other people, be useful member of the public, really. And that's exactly that God did. And I feel like all these things are happening not because I'm perfect, but because God is faithful. And I knew it was going to be a struggle to start something that I wasn't sure of and how to start it, how to move forward. But God does not despise, small beginnings. We find this in the Bible in the book of Zechariah 4:20, 4:10. Yeah, it says God does not despise these small beginnings. So I felt like it was okay to start somewhere. It was okay to start small, but do it with passion, do it with vision of which way God is taking you. And I felt like God was calling me to deepen my calling and strengthen my obedience in teaching me how to trust Him with the pace that He was going at. And that's one thing I was so grateful about. And I felt like also there was clarity on which direction Lifted was going, and Lifted is actually one of the clearest evidence of obedience turning into impact. That's what I feel, and I feel like I'm gonna use this platform to do whatever I can that God has called me to do. And I didn't know how to do it all these years because I've been in a position and in a place where I didn't have time to do what I wanted to do. And now I feel like I have more than enough. I can use my workspace, I can use my private space, I can use my ministry to do all this. And this is what vision that I always had for many years. And just watching it come to life, I can see the faithfulness of God. And and I see this, and I was reading towards the end of this year, I was reading the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, 2 and 3 says, write the vision, make it plain, though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and it will not delay. Okay, I'll say it one more again. Habakkuk 2, 2 and 3. Write the vision and make it plain. Though it lingers, wait for it. It will certainly come and it will not delay. So, Lifted has been, the growth of Lifted did not grow, it just didn't happen overnight. It's a vision that I had since I was young, since and I always used to tell my grandmother, and my grandmother was like, yes, this I can see this. And I thought this old woman is just saying it because it's me, a favorite child. Of course she'll say that. So I never truly grasped that, when I surrender myself into the hands of Child Jesus, this transformation that can happen, and I can see my vision coming through Lifted, and and it's just the progress is happening so in a go in a slow steps, small by small. But I feel like this is God's honoring vision, consistency, and its service. And this is something that I want to see grow, and I want to see more young people. So in the future, I want to plan programs for young people where we can share a safe space where we can talk about faith, our visions, our ambitions. So if you ever want to be part of this vision, part of this, you can email me, you can DM me at lifted, I can't even spell lifted. So lifted, LIFTED 4, number 4, change, lifted for change at gmail.com. Or you can DM me, send me a message and everything. I want to be a safe space to support because I also, with my work and with my dissertation, I've done a lot of research on how to support young people to support back them into the community, how they can be part of the community. And this is my vision. I use it in my study space, I use it in my ministry space, and I use it in my personal space. I don't know what's going on with my camera today, and I'm ready to giving up, but we almost finished. And I'm hoping it's coming back, but anyway, it is what it is. So we're gonna end this because I no longer want to fight with this camera. So I want to use this space as a safe space for young people to come and have visions, to talk about our visions, to talk about dreams, because God allows us to dream big. Like I say in the book of Habakkuk, it's telling us, write the vision and make it plain. Come to God with your vision and tell him as it is. Let him know what are your dreams, what are your thoughts, and he'll guide you. He'll support you. And this is why I title this, When I Look Back, I See God. I see him in the waiting. I see him in the doors that open unexpectedly. And I see him in the strength to keep going. Sometimes things are difficult, but I see him in every little things. And with this, I claim a scripture from Lamentations 3:22 and 23, because of the Lord's great love, we're not consumed, for his compassion never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I love that song. I probably play it more than I shouldn't, but anyway. That's my morning song. I play it all the time. It's a simple songs, because His faithfulness is renewed in our lives day to day to day to day. So we shouldn't have fear to go and seek for it. And you know, I know a lot of people still doubt, so how can I do this? Some things are not for me. And this is something that I heard quite a lot when I was in Africa, because everyone thinks that just because you're in Africa, your vision is like completely shattered. That is completely wrong. I've seen great people coming out of those spaces, and the most talented, the most amazing people I've seen coming out of those spaces. I heard someone telling me, "Oh, I don't speak English. I don't speak." I know someone who doesn't speak English now has an MBA, who did a young person who had a dream but had faced so many struggles with life. But she had a dream and she kept her dream alive. Now she has an MBA in Africa. And these are the things that we need to encourage each other. So when you see young people, please, please be an instrument of encouragement. Encourage them to see more beyond themselves, that there is something better for you out there. And when you invite God, a lot of things can change and a lot of things can happen to you. So if you're listening and still waiting, do not lose heart. God is not late. He's never late. He is intentional, but he's never late. So I just want to say, me and my on and off camera, I don't know. I hope it wasn't really a bad thing. I just want to thank you for spending this time. I know 45 minutes is a lot, but thank you for spending this time with me on Lifted Voices with Fifi. Until next time, keep trusting, keep obeying, and keep lifting your voice. Please do not forget to lift up one more young person. You can do it, and we can do it together. We can lift a greater nation, more people to come forward and do better things, and the future is the young people. So let us keep on encouraging them. Thank you. Until next